guess I'm a little bit of a freak in the Belgian art scene. I've worked in a part of my life a lot for dance, as a contemporary dance, as an artistic collaborator, as a dramaturg, as a researcher, and it was great to assist work. But then when I started making my own work, for some reason, I started working on sound and voice, and I became a vocalist. So I have a second life. What Nature Says is a piece where I want to interrogate the ways we listen and the ways we associate meanings to sound. Basically, I've asked 5 vocalists from very different fields, from noise background, from pop music, from choreography, from bruitisme, like French sound poetry background, 5 people, to imitate the sounds of the world around us. Material. It becomes a composition of half an hour where people will listen how humans try to be as close as possible the sound of the world. And I don't know if you here in Finland know this Italian expression where it's like an a cappella, where 5 people sound like the world. And then very early in the process, I knew I wanted to make a composition which would be like a trip through different sound worlds, soundscapes, but that we would perform this twice. So we have performers performing a sound piece, which is 30 minutes, and we split the audience in 2 groups. A group will start and listen to this piece live in an adjacent room, not far from where the performers are, and a group will go immediately into this performance room and see how they make a piece, how they perform, how they execute. There's a break, and the 2 groups switch. The group that saw it and heard it will go to the listening room and hear it again, but only through hearing. And the audience group that started with listening will, after the break, have a possibility to also see how it's performed. And so repeating a piece twice, but under very different conditions, is actually an invitation to the audience to not only listen to how they listen, but also see how different it is, how we listen and imagine when we take out one sense, and so this is a bit the perceptual hocus pocus that we perform on the audience, because it's very weird that something that you've just heard will come back and be like very different. Really, the sounds of the world. I mean, the piece was prepared for a very long time. I made a lot of recordings and traveled just naturally. I didn't do any extra traveling, but my work, my life is one of traveling. So these field recordings of my life became my material, my archive, my sound archive, and I asked performers to perhaps to reenact certain parts of this sonic lives, this archive. So there's Australia in the performance, there's the South, there's also the places where we worked. We worked in residence in Germany, in Belgium, in different places really. And so this also enters our piece. And so the title is What Nature Says, and it's somehow maybe not so clear, what nature is. Maybe it says something, but what is nature is somehow this weird category that we not so sure anymore about, like where does it stop, where does it start, and so through sound we actually explore this tension between a nature gone confused. Or, yeah. We work a lot with imitation, right? So, but it's not so uncommon that in nature you find examples of nature imitating humans. So there's birds that imitate the sounds of an alarm of your car, or ringtones, or chainsaws, but also a lot of sounds that we find in nature resemble actually very digital sounds or mechanical sounds or rhythms. When you really focus on sounds only and not see visually what it is referring to, where it is coming from, it's very weird. It's like a sound can either refer to something extremely natural and extremely artificial. So we worked on a family of sounds that have this ambiguity. That can be a fly, but it can be a motor. It can be wind, but it can be gas leaking from a factory. You could say that we are more like sound artists in the sense that we organize our sounds, we don't make music. There's music in these situations. I think that making this piece was also a way of saying, okay, there's a lot of, in nature, maybe nature starts really coming very close to artificial nature. I mean, it's not clear anymore what it is. There is imitation in nature, but humans imitating nature can be either perceived as something very playful, very joyful. Children do it, but also shamans do it to have a relation with the world. But maybe also desperate. Humans are the less nature we have, the more we put it and print it on our bags, have it on our clothes, have it on our wallpaper. So when one thing is in crisis, we simulate it, we imitate it, we bring it close. There's also something very sad to this. And so the piece does work with something of a crisis and urgency. If nature could talk, I'm sure it wouldn't be very happy. Well, I knew you could imitate a couple of things, but every time when we worked on something, it was magic to see, shit, now we can also get there, or now we became like an imitation maestros. It's a virtuosity that I haven't been looking for, because I really like if people recognize in the piece things that they can do. It's very immediate. Everybody can sound like we do, but the fact that we, for half an hour on end, approach so closely reality is weird, and this was pretty magical to see that we could take it that far. And it's a big pleasure to go that far, but also to fail now and then. And so now and then the illusion is broken, because a human can do amazing things, but only to a certain extent. So this is magic, the magic of achieving travestism with big travestites on a sonic level. Yeah.